Happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome to Unity of Kern County on the 6th day of March, 2022. I'm Reverend Chuck, and today we're going to look at God's matrix for us according to a statement that was made by Jesus to the religious leaders of the day, as it is presented by the writer of the book of John. And we're going to look at what it means for us in our life and in our affairs today. Now, of course, the materials that I share with you are based upon the spiritual principles, lessons that were taught by Jesus, as well as Unity Worldwide Ministries, and my 28 plus years as an ordained Unity minister. And of course, as we do each Sunday, we open honoring that presence of God as we best understand that presence by praying in the presence. I am now in the presence of pure being and immersed in the Holy Spirit of love, life, and wisdom. I acknowledge your presence and power, O Blessed Spirit, in your divine wisdom. Now erase my mortal limitations, and from your pure substance of love, bring into manifestation my world according to your perfect law. And so it is. Well, the writer of John had many things to say about Jesus' ministry. And what I find especially intriguing is this statement to the religious leaders and their need of controlling the masses of their day to their will. Now, Jesus would have none of that. And according to the writer of John, he makes the point very clear to them when he tells them that we are God's beloved sons and daughters, and we have every right to claim our inheritance of the kingdom, for that kingdom belongs to each and every one of us without ritual, without rules, without dogma, and without sacrifices. And so here Jesus is making his point. Is it not written in your law? And he's talking about the Jewish law, that I said ye are God's sons and daughters of the Most High. So what are we to do with that today? Simply, it is how people have accepted their divine right, their divine spiritual birthright, if you will. It is a shame that somewhere along the line, since Jesus' teachings, that has been thrown to the wayside. Jesus saw the divine in each one of us and still sees it today. Paul saw it. He called it the Christ in you, your hope of glory. And it is that birthright that Jesus declared was God's greatest pleasure to give us. All we had to do is ask, seek, and knock, whatever the need might be. For each of us has been endowed with God's matrix. That matrix, of course, is the image and likeness. This is why Jesus said, is it not written that ye are gods? But it's up to us to accept it and then express it the best way we know how. However, as we all know, within the human condition, there is this myth. Yeah, a myth that's been handed down through centuries that keeps telling us we're not good enough. We're not smart enough. We don't deserve what we have. We're not rich enough. We're not strong enough. So how could we possibly be a success in God's eyes? In fact, how many times have you heard the statements, either made by yourself or someone else, saying, I'm not good enough, or I'm a fake, and everyone will know it, and I don't deserve this success? Where do these ideas and concepts come from? Well, they come from our early childhood and from those who were in authority, thinking that we needed to be told and kept in line to the norms of the day. Only did we grow up and realize that some of those things weren't true. Yet people accepted them as true, and they hold them in their consciousness, in their belief system, if you will. Right now, we look and we see people in power trying to keep everyone in check. And when they don't, and they step outside that box of conformity, then they end up trying to demean that individual and somehow lower their standards to less than perfect. Now, we all know that people have been told they weren't smart enough, they weren't worthy enough, they weren't lovable enough, and they ended up accepting it. Now, I heard these things as a child growing up, but something inside me wouldn't accept it as truth. And so you could say I was probably a rebellious child, if you will. Now, I've known many people in my life who have faced challenges, and they have shot themselves in the foot, so to speak. And they do this out of fear. They've done it out of fear. Fear that they weren't good enough, or they saw themselves as a fake, and that the world would somehow see it. So they were afraid to move forward, afraid that they weren't worthy enough of that success. But what they forgot and what they failed to realize was that they were and are spiritually endowed by the divine matrix of their Creator with skills and talents, attributes, so that they can be a success. After all, Jesus said, is it not written that ye are God's children of the Most High? You know, what I learned early on was that the many challenges that, for the most part, were unexpected and sometimes overwhelming, comes into each of our lives. No one escapes them. Jesus even said, in this life, you're going to have trials and tribulations. And at times, we may even feel that it's not fair. Or we always look for the other shoe to drop. Many people will muster through this, of course, and some will just simply give up. I've known both. I've always tried to live by the saying that if life hands you lemons, of course, what do? You make lemonade. Well, one of my greatest insights into all this was when I realized God was first in the darkness. Then he said, let there be light. For me, that meant no matter how dark a situation can be or a challenge gets, God is there. Now, all I have to do is look for ways to see God in that challenge or in that situation. And I've counseled many people looking for ways to develop a habit and a new course of behavior that would let them see God in their challenges. And it comes down to this basic truth. You may not be able to control what comes your way, but you can control how you respond and react to what comes your way. So I'm going to share with you several areas of the human condition that everyone has expressed at one time or another in one degree or another in their life. Number one, deals with your core belief about yourself and the world around you. It all starts with how you see yourself in God's eyes. Do you see yourself as God, as Jesus stated, children of the Most High, heirs to God's kingdom, which in fact makes you God's, as reminded the religious leaders of a day? 2, your beliefs will determine how life shows up for you. Now, we've all seen how attitudes of mind can bring positive experiences. So when unexpected challenges appear, they are able to overcome them and move on. Those that have a very negative outlook on life will continue to be in that turmoil. 3, as Jesus said, God knows your needs before you even ask. So if God, who created you, already knows your needs, why is it that we deny the skills, the talents, the strength, the courage, the fortitude that can be used to help us overcome any and all challenges so that we can be successful? Think about that. If not you, maybe someone you know needs to hear that. 4, your relationship with God is an important part of developing a mindset that will allow you to handle all the challenges that you or a loved one may face. Throughout Jesus' ministry, it was very important for the people to know that God loved them just the way they were. Never in Jesus' ministry will you find him teaching everyone to fear God. That was not in his message. There is no fear in God's messages. But instead, what you find is messages of love, messages of compassion, messages of forgiveness, and all the good that God has for us, because we have within us God's matrix. 5, when it does come to relationships we have this symbiotic one, not only with God, but with each other, and of course, with the world at large. What we desire, what we want, and of course, what we hope for ourselves should be and always can be something we want for others. 6, it's important to realize that you are not a victim. Jesus did not teach victimhood. Yes, the Romans made their lives horrible, but they did not have control over their minds, their spirit, or their souls. And so we could affirm for ourselves that no matter what we're facing, we can open the door to God's matrix to see God in that darkness by affirming God is here. God is in this experience now as understanding. 7, remember these words. If God is for you, who could be against you? With continued practice, you can develop a sense of confidence and knowing that no one can take your good from you. And again, you can affirm God's matrix. Only good can come from this, for God is in this experience. And finally, 8, trusting God. It really comes down to this. You either do or you don't. And I've known people who say they do and then act differently by listening to ego of the human condition that says, I'll do it my way. We all know that this does not work. So, if you or a loved one or a friend is having a challenge, you can place yourself or that loved one or friend under God's protective presence and affirm again, God's plan is good. I trust it. God is in full control of this challenge, situation, or experience because God's matrix is within me and God is in the darkness. And I affirm to see him now. Well, if you have any questions at any time about the materials that I share with you each Sunday, please feel free to contact me on Facebook Messenger or my email at revchuckunity@yahoo.com. And I want to thank all of you who do follow me on the YouTube page, Unity of Kern County, as well as Facebook. And I also want to thank all of you for your financial offerings that help keep this ministry coming to you on a weekly basis. So until next time, remember, be good to yourself and others. God bless you, dear friends.